Welcome to the Human Factors in AI final course project. This is the project guidelines in which I'm going to take you through the task analysis of the problem that I have selected. I have basically selected the problem that I worked on during the Managing ML Projects course, so I will be continuing with that solution. Next, I will walk you through the user experience design, then the privacy considerations that are applicable for this problem statement, and finally, some ethical considerations. So, in the task analysis section of the AI model building part, the problem statement here is identification of appropriate user entitlements to access an in house application. Now, employees may require access to different resources within this application, and depending on what the business requirement is to access this application, the access for each user needs to be reviewed by the application admins who are in charge of handling the access request before granting access to any user who requests. Now, since this application is built on very fine grained entitlements, access management becomes very crucial as users, whoever is requesting, should only be given access on a need to have basis. That too, to those resources or those components of this application which is relevant to the user's business use case. Now, currently, the access requests are manually reviewed by admins who need to go to the details by verifying the department, the user's organization hierarchy, and the designation, the business use case, that the reason description that the user is providing as to why they need access to the system, and other details to evaluate the origin of requests. Now, this is a humongous process because there are plenty of users requesting access to this application from different parts of the organization. That's why it becomes a very tedious process and very time oriented process for you admins to manually review each of these applications. That is where the AI model will come into play, because this will be able to simplify the process by improving the user's experience by automating the user access control system, which will automatically review a user's access request and then accordingly take the decision to whether to approve or reject the request a user has made to access a certain application or component of the application in concern. Now, for the user experience design based on Don Norman's 6 principles of interaction design, we will walk through the 6 principles, which is visibility, feedback, constraints, mapping, consistency, and affordance. For visibility, the application and the has been kept very simple so that the access request screen just has 3 to 4 fields from which the user can provide input so that important information fields are clearly visible. It will be communicated to the user after their access request has been received and also after it has been actioned, meaning if a request is rejected, that will also be notified to the requester. User interaction is very simple. There are only 3 to 4 fields on the screen based on which the user needs to provide the basic minimum details as to why they need access to certain component of the application. The user interface is simple and the fields are extremely self-explanatory. It will not confuse the users at all. Consistent element throughout the user experience has been taken care of in the designing of the screen. And finally, the application access request UI has been designed in such a way so that it gives clarity to the user regarding what request they need to be raising for in order to, like, based on their use case, what exactly is applicable for them is also very clearly made clear to the user in the UI so that they do not get confused as to what they need to raise and they don't raise incorrect or multiple requests, so that they are able to clearly understand what request they need to raise. Certain privacy considerations that are in play is data privacy concerns, because even though this is an application where the target users are coming from within an organization, like they are employees of the firm, but certain line of businesses might be having internal restrictions on sharing their employees' data, and the model would definitely need to extract the background or the user profile of the requester, and the line of business from which the user comes from may have certain restrictions in sharing that with other line of businesses or with the central organization, and some other accesses might be needed, which the AI model may not be able to raise on its own in order to gain that information. So that's a data privacy concern that might be coming into play. The applicable privacy laws and considerations, one of the most important one is GDPR, which is General Data Protection Regulation. So the AI model has been made sure that it collects minimum data from global employee detail system, which is not subject to any privacy restrictions, so that it can easily access minimum information about an employee and based on that analyze and review the request. Again, at the time of analyzing a particular requester's request, the data of that requester will be retained only till the access request is completed. So that has been taken into consideration. And finally, a user profile will be created in the system with very minimum details after the access request has been approved, so that no PII rules are violated. So the application itself is not storing any employee information. It will create a persona for this user so that the user can go into the system and log in like a user and use the application. And finally, the ethical considerations that are in play. So the potential bias that can be seen in this AI model is representation bias, because in this case only employees from operations and technology departments have been considered for this model as the major users or the major requesters of the users of this application. So in that case, what is happening is there can be other departments within the organization, because this is a large organization, who might benefit from uses this application and who might also have certain business case, but maybe they are not aware that they can make use of such application. Because of that, a larger pool base, a larger employee base is getting ignored, and the model is only getting trained as to how to review the profile based on users from operations and technology, and because they belong to the same department like operations and technology, so it can be expected that all the requesters will be coming with a similar user profile. So the user profile variations are not coming into the AI model. That is the representation bias that this model is facing. Finally, the AI system criteria that we need to take into consideration is fairness, accountability, and transparency. For fairness, employees from different departments as well as different designations in the organization will be treated fairly with respect to access request review, meaning somebody at a very lower starting entry level position applying for application request, as well as somebody very high in the hierarchy applying for the application request, will be treated fairly. The review process will be same for both individuals. End users will be able to provide a feedback to the product team via feedback survey regarding their experience of access request, whether they felt it was too time consuming, the access request completion took a lot of time and they couldn't gain access to the application. Also, they will be able to raise tickets or bugs if they face any issues while raising the access request process, as well as after they gain access to the process. And finally, end users will be given information on the data that is being collected from the organization for this AI model regarding their user profile. So that information will also be shared with the user once their persona is created. That way they will be able to see what information about them was accessed while approving their access requests. Thank you so much for your time. This ends my project coursework on human factors in AI.